What is going on, everybody? My name is Dangers, and I am very humbled to have been invited. Is kind of like an extended any percent where you're trying to get to the final unlockable kingdom, which is called Darker Side. Now, any percent, you know, you guys are familiar with any percent. Any percent is usually just to the end of the game, start to finish, that kind of thing. Darker Side is a hidden kingdom in this game, and it unlocks once you've beat the game. And then you've also collected 500 power moons, which is a lot. And then I'm going to take you through it. So the first thing you're going to notice is that this game relies heavily on rolling. And the fastest way to roll is to shake my controller. So if it looks a little bit weird, like my head is bobbing up and down, that's why. It's because I'm just shaking my controller as I go along. Now, like I said, this game has come a really, really long way. And, you know, when any speed game starts, you kind of just try and, like, beat it as fast as you can with the intended strats in mind. But over the course of the 2 years, we've discovered a lot of tech based around the movement that this game has. And it all starts right here. Oh, well, just kidding. I was going to do a little trick for you called left side, but I'm just going to have to back that up. Basically, you can go over the railing instead of all the way around like the game intends. Save a couple seconds. But yeah. Now, the cool thing about Darker Side, in my opinion, what makes this my favorite category of this entire game, is that it is not just getting from start to finish. It is getting from start to finish and then beyond. So, because of that, this game is broken down into 14 kingdoms. And in the main playthrough of the game, you go through all 14 of the kingdoms. In Darker Side, we need to collect more power moons, so we go back to those kingdoms. We give them all a little revisit. And with the exception of like two very, very small ones, we revisit them all. And it gets very, very, very fast once we get towards those kingdoms. Alright. So now we're in Cascade. And I'm going to attempt a trick that was found kind of recently. It's very difficult and it is very new. So bear with me. We might not get it. We're certainly going to try. But what this game wants you to do is cross this bridge, approach the Odyssey for the first time. It'll give you a little cutscene about what the Odyssey's doing there. Then you capture a dino. Then you get up into a boss arena. But instead, we're just going to climb this cliff. And go around. And this saves about 8 seconds. Oh, well, I mean, if you don't bonk into everything. It saves 8 seconds. And into our first boss fight. Now, the whole mechanic of this fight is to, you know, wait for the Madame Brutal, is her name, to throw the golden chain jump at you. And then you knock its hat off. Usually she gives chase, but by doing this kind of backflip strat over the top of it, we just kind of grab it immediately and are on our way. So it looks like we have a $10 donation from Flood Cappy. So Flood Cappy, thank you so much for benefiting diabetes prevention at AID. You're a legend, dude. Thank you so much. Gamer! Dude, I'm seeing a lot of gamers in the chat. Any gamers in here? Tell me if there are any gamers present. An ice pillar clip. Oh boy. Neo's been teasing me about this, like, very, very difficult roll cancel clip that I could be doing. And it's just, as much as I want to, it's just not going to happen. We'll talk about roll cancel clips in a second. But first, here's a different clip. So, by backflipping and throwing Cappy at exactly the right moment, that moon becomes available to grab at a specific time. So I am remembering the time. I'm trying to throw Cappy at exactly the time that I need. And that kind of just removes the collision on walls and ceilings for some reason when you go into moon cutscenes. And so because of that, I'm just able to clip through the ceiling and continue on, rather than coming back out the little cubby hole. So that's a little trick there, a little neat trick. And that's it. That's Cascade. After Cascade is Sand. And Sand is probably one of my favorite kingdoms to speedrun. It's this big, sprawling place. I think it's, aside from Mushroom, and Mushroom kind of cheats because they've got, like, the achievement moons, but I think aside from Mushroom, Sand has the most power moons out of any kingdom in it. And it is very fun to traverse, especially in the post-game. Now, one of the main things that we need to accomplish if we want to get lots of power moons very quickly is something called World Peace. And in other games, you might consider World Peace to be completing the story, I guess. So any percent typically is just start to finish as fast as possible. And if you've ever seen an any percent speedrun of this game, they don't really go through very many of the story elements at all. They are trying to avoid them because they're slow. It turns out that completing the story has a couple of added benefits. First of all, you know, each boss that you beat or each story that you complete usually comes with a multi-moon, which is 3 moons. So that's, you know, a little bit of a benefit by itself. But also, when we get to the post-game, it's going to have some extra benefits. There's a mechanic in this game that only unlocks once you've completed the story in a kingdom. So if you haven't completed the story in a kingdom, then you have to, you basically kind of bar yourself off from being able to collect fast moons later on. So it's very important for us. It's very important for us to go ahead and complete the story. So that's what we're gonna do. And if obviously you're like, why don't you just get to the end of the game as fast as possible to get to the post game? It's for that reason specifically. We need to complete the story. All right. A $59 donation coming in from Tail the Nut. Tail, you're a legend. Thank you so much. I think that brings our donation to a very nice number. All right, that's it. The charity event is over. We've reached our pinnacle. We've reached our pinnacle. Nobody donated. I'm just kidding. Please donate some more money. It's going to a good cause. You know, you can't stop on this number. There are better numbers ahead, I tell you. I can think of one right now that's about like 300 away. So, all right. So, talking about roll cancel clips. Yeah, that. So that is what we call the inverted pyramid clip. And that, basically, if you've ever played this game before and you have gone through the story, essentially this game, it takes you through trying to kind of open up the sand menu to you, or open up the sand map. You kind of go up a tower, and then you go over to like a little oasis on the left side. But this game didn't really build check marks into their system of progression for this kingdom specifically. So we can just clip right into the inverted pyramid and do the boss fight without having to do those story moons first. And this saves roughly 2.5 minutes. It's a big, big thing. And, of course, it's really cool to pull off as well. So the funny thing is, if we were playing in English, you would hear Cappy say something along the lines of, I don't think we can brute force that. Turns out you can. Turns out you actually can. Just don't listen to Cappy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. $5 from Liku, and they say hi. Hello, Liku. It's okay that you ruined the nice number, by the way. That's totally fine. This number's pretty nice, too. Can't go wrong with 74. Now, I always like to pay attention to the birds in the background for here. I don't know why. It's just, like, they're very cute. There's a lot of birds in this game. I don't know, like, when I play this game enough, I forget to realize that there are so many birds in this game. And you kind of just roll through them or roll by them or ruin their day, but they're there. Birds are actually going to be very important in the post-game. We'll talk about birds later on. Now this is Harriet, and you can see that we're making pretty quick work of Harriet. The cool thing about all of these like brutals, these are called brutals, these bunnies. The cool thing about these mini boss fights is that they all have like a skippable mechanic. So how this fight is supposed to go is she throws her bombs at you, they land on the ground. She does that a couple times, and then she throws bigger bombs, and the bigger bombs hit her without any problem, but you can use the little ones to bomb her as well. And that's how you kind of skip through the phases rather than waiting. So, that's not the final boss of Sand Kingdom, though. That is just a midway point. Now Sand Kingdom gets dark and spooky. Honestly, I wish that Sand Kingdom stayed like this, because not only is the atmosphere really cool, but the music's pretty banging, too. So, one thing to note about the early game of this category is, like, we're not really trying to get to the post-game as fast as possible. I mean, we are. It's a speed run, but we are also trying to accomplish a couple of things to set ourselves up, because the post-game is when things get really fast. Post-game, essentially, like, moons are... If the moon in post-game is 21 seconds or more, it's too slow for this category. So if you're moving moon to moon and it's taking more than 20 seconds, then it's too slow. And so, for that reason, we're trying to set ourselves up to get some even more fast moons when we get to the post-game. So we're going to be doing some setup. You might have noticed at the beginning of Sand Kingdom I planted a seed in a pot. That seed takes 20 real-time minutes to grow. So by the time that we get to Sand Kingdom again later on, that seed will be a moon just waiting for us. I talked to that Jaxie guy on my way into town. His name's Jaxie, by the way, the little Jaguar dude. And I paid him 30 coins, and then I just ran right by him. And you might be like, well, what the heck was that all about? The Jaxie's very fast. He sprints across the desert, and he doesn't take damage from, like, instant death poison or anything like that. So he's going to be very useful when we come back here later. And there's a lot of instances where we're just, like, trying to set ourselves up to make the speedrun faster later on. Now this little icicle cave area is leading up into the boss fight arena. Just do a couple of, like, quick capture strategies here. Can you use DSTA for the seed? Now you can, but it doesn't really benefit the same way it does in, say, any percent. Because in any percent, you don't come back to Sand Kingdom, right? In any percent, you use DSTA because you want to be able to get that seed immediately. But with the darker side, you do come back to Sand Kingdom later on, and you do end up visiting the town area of Sand Kingdom. So it doesn't really make sense to use a strategy that manipulates the time and makes the seed grow instantly if you don't need to, I guess. There have been some DSTA routes planned for Darker Side that could potentially save some time, but not very much time, and it would require you to basically have a timer set for like 2 hours in advance. It's very complicated stuff. For anybody who doesn't know, DSTA is a strategy. It stands for Daylight Savings Time Abuse. I said that the seeds take 20 minutes to grow, right? 20 minutes real time. And the game uses the system's internal clock for that. So it checks the switch time rather than having its own internal clock. So because of that, you can manipulate it, right? You can test this yourself. If you start up a new file, you plant that seed in Sand Kingdom, and then you go into your switch clock and set the time an hour forward, suddenly it'll just be grown. It'll just start growing right before your eyes, and that's because it uses the switch clock. So, because of that, we can use Daylight Savings Time to manipulate that, so that we don't have to go into the menu and change it manually. When Daylight Savings Time happens, it changes the clock's an hour forward, right? So the switch just takes that for an hour having fully passed, and the seeds will grow instantly if you set your clock right. It is a trick that is very prominent in any percent Dark Side, and I think we're actually starting to use it in All Moons as well, just to speed things up a little bit, but doesn't really have quite the same benefit as it does in this category. So Can you explain why it's called Darker Side? Darker Side is the name of a kingdom. So, spoiler alert, we are speedrunning, so you're going to get spoiled in about an hour anyways. But once this game is completed, you finish it off on the moon, right? But that's not the last kingdom that exists. There's Mushroom Kingdom, which we'll just kind of get spit out into afterwards. But then once you collect 250 moons, you unlock the dark side of the moon. And when you collect 500 power moons, you get to the darker side of the moon. So there's 2 bonus kingdoms, and Darker Side is one that has, like, the game's quote-unquote hardest level in it. Kind of like the perfect run for Super Mario Galaxy 2 or something like that, you know? The hardest level. So that's our goal. Get to the hardest level of the game and beat it. Now, before we left Sand Kingdom there, we had the boss beat. We could have just left, but we didn't. And the reason we didn't is because of setup again. We went and talked to that guy with his little taxi friend. And that guy starts a little bit of like a chain quest. He's going to have moons for us. And those moons can only spawn if you've like visited him on his previous leg of his journey. And he starts in sand. So we're actually going to run into that taxi guy again later on. But he wouldn't be there if we didn't talk to him now. We have to do that setup before we can leave. And Rip Duke comes in with $5 and says, smile. Can we get some smiles in the chat? All right. Now we're in Wooded Kingdom. And we actually chose Wooded Kingdom on purpose. There is a fork in the road, and you might think that it's faster to just mash through the text and go to Lake first. And you'd be right. Mashing through would be faster. However, there is a little bit of a quirk in this category where basically just the routing works in a way that if we choose Wooded first, we can do one of those setup things that I was talking about in our first visit to Wooded Kingdom rather than in the second. And the reason that that works is because the kingdom you choose now affects something called the painting chain later on. And we'll talk about the painting chain when we get to the post-game. Little quirk that not very many people know about, by the way, is that if you take one of those nuts out of the seed dispenser, you can actually throw it right at the dino's face, and you can knock him out that way instead of running him into a tree or something. And so that's what we've done. He's going to help us get a couple power moons down here. Now, the Deep Woods, we just get out of the way right away. There are a couple of fast moons down here, so it is to our benefit to just come on up, come on down here and grab it. And then we're back up on the surface. And this kingdom is one of the more technical ones in the speedrun. You're going to see one of those moon clips that we did earlier in Cascade Kingdom. You're actually going to see that here as well. Let's see if I'm able to pull this one off. This one is pretty famous for Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning. I don't think I got it. But basically what I could do... Yeah, I didn't get it. What I could do is I could clip through that wall using that moon. That's called the nut clip. In this category, it only saves about 6 to 7 seconds, so it's not a huge deal that I didn't get it there. But you can go out of bounds using that moon. In this category, all it does is gets me to this moon a little bit faster, so I probably only lost about 6 to 7 seconds. But in any percent, it's essentially necessary at the top level because it saves like 30 seconds doing a new route. Oof. Got hit by the poison. All right. Am I on 1.3 or 1.0? That's a good question. So, 1.3 is the fastest and most definitive version for every speedrun category in this game. 1.0 is only useful if the speedrun you're doing requires the tricks that it has. None of the speedruns on the main board require those tricks. Oh boy. Well, that's unfortunate. The only reason 1.0 is useful is for category extensions that require you to use certain glitches or tricks to skip portions of the game. So, for example, minimum captures has something called the nut jump, which everybody loves. And the only way that you're able to perform it is on 1.0. But the reason 1.3 is the fastest version, it did get rid of some tricks that are available in 1.0, but the loads got overclocked in this version of the game, and the loads are so fast that they bypass 1.0 and all of its tricks in every category. Well, thank you, Smiletto. All right. Now, we were talking about setup earlier. We were talking about how you need to go through all of the kingdoms, and you need to complete the story elements so that you can unlock some fast moons later. We're going to break the rule a little bit with Wooded Kingdom. Spirit is not the final boss of Wooded Kingdom. He's kind of the midway point. But in order for us to beat the final boss in this kingdom, we're going to get spit out back at the Odyssey. And it's really, really, really far away from where the boss fight is. The final boss is kind of sitting at the top of the kingdom, and it takes us a really long time to get there. So instead of doing that, we're just going to leave now. We're just going to get out of here. I've had my fun, you know? It's been great. It's been fun. Wooded Kingdom's great and all, but we're just going to leave. You can see that there was going to be a cutscene there. It was going to scroll up to the top and be like, yo, this is where you need to go. We're just going to leave. And the reason we're going to leave is because of the painting chain. We'll talk about that later. What is my favorite kingdom? I guess it depends on how you're asking the question. In terms of, like, speedruns, I would say that Sand Kingdom is probably my favorite. Like I said, it's got a lot of moons, and it's really fun to move through. But in terms of, like, playing the game casually and just, like, the overall aesthetic and the overall feel of the kingdom, I would have to say Luncheon is probably my favorite. And it's just because, well, I really like food, so there's that. I really like food, but I like the music in it. I like the styling of it. I like how it's very neon-colored, and it's just very wacky. It's a lava level, but it's disguised as this, like, delicious place. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's probably got to be my favorite. So now we're in Lake Kingdom. And this one actually doesn't require a whole lot of setup. This route is going to look pretty fast. We're literally just getting as many moons as we need to leave. But there is one thing that we do need to take care of before we leave, and I'll go over that as we're doing it. So otherwise, we're just kind of swimming through. We're using the cheap capture, and a lot of people don't actually know that you can, like, boost swim with the cheap because it's not really explicitly said in the action guide that you can do this. But if you press a jump button and a cap throw button at the same time, the cheap will do a boost through the water. What is up, Tyrone? We got a lot of fellow Super Mario Odyssey speedrunners in the chat right now. And I'm just going to do a spin throw to get all those coins. Hello? My kitten's here. Did you want to come say hello? Hey? You want to come say hello? Yeah, you did. Oh, nope, she jumped away. I was going to pick her up, but she didn't want to. Why do you see Japanese for Sunshine and Odyssey players? So, Super Mario Odyssey has a worldwide release. There is no regional version of this game, but you can specifically change the language in the settings. And, of course, when the game came out, we all tested the languages to see if there were any changes, any differences, and it turns out the Japanese has less text boxes in the cutscenes, and for that reason is the fastest version, the fastest language. So we play in Japanese to save time. 12 seconds approximately in an any % speedrun, and potentially more when it gets into longer categories. Yeah, and whether the motion controls are necessary for SMO speedruns is a pretty good question. Not necessary, but the main purpose for using motion controls is that they give us better roll boosts. If you're rolling along, you can press a cap throw button to continue Mario's rolling forward. But if you shake, you always get the fastest roll boost rather than just the wimpy ones that you get sometimes. So it's important for rolling fast. And it's important for certain kinds of throws that you can do. Like, you can only do spin throws and up throws with motion controls. And we do need those sometimes. So, this is our first encounter with Bowser. We're in the Cloud Kingdom. This is actually one of the 2 kingdoms that we won't revisit because it's too small and it doesn't really have any benefit to us later on. But this fight is obviously going a little bit a little bit different than the casual playthrough probably does. We're going to get right up in Bowser's face every single time he lays his hats down. I'm intentionally taking damage here just to make sure that he doesn't hit me with any of his other hats. And just like that, the fight is over. Timing a backflip and a cap throw in such a way makes this fight just go by immediately. Sounds hard to be consistent with motion controls. It's actually not that bad. Not as bad as you would think. All right, so the story of this game, it was going to lead you to the Metro Kingdom. You get really excited for the Metro Kingdom. Bowser confronts you. Bowser confronts you and fights you in the Cloud Kingdom, and then you crash land in the Lost Kingdom. And so we have to make our way through this before we can leave. Nice. So that was a pretty fast grab. I've actually just started implementing that recently, so I'm glad to have been able to pull that off. And now I'm actually going to take a death here. The reason that we went up to the top of the kingdom was so that we could grab a checkpoint. And that checkpoint, basically, you know, it does exactly what you think it does. It provides a place for Mario to respawn if he dies. So we're going to use that to our advantage a couple times in this kingdom. There we go. Now, the reason that we actually went around the backside of this kingdom is because of that bird that we just kind of encountered there. He's a good bird, good lad, but he's also kind of annoying. He steals Cappy from us. If you go around the back like that, you don't actually hit his trigger zone, and you don't have to worry about him. But by getting up in his face like we just did, we did trigger his zone. He thinks he has Cappy right now, but he's actually kind of dumb, so we just get to keep going along the kingdom as normal. We're going to initiate one of those death warps again to get back up to the top. And this is our friend Glydon. And he's going to be very important for a trick that I'm going to attempt in just a second here. So I'm going to line him up. And the dive didn't come out. Classic. So we're going to try it again. What's up with the year 2000 thing? The Nintendo Switch clock can be set to any year between 2000 and 2060, so just for fun, I like to set it to the year 2000. Okay. It didn't come out again. Okay. All right. Third time's the charm, right? I think I'm just diving too early. That could be it. You'll see what I'm about to do. It'll all make sense, chat. Don't worry. Oh, my goodness. Okay. 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 You know, it's funny. In any other situation, I typically don't have a big problem with this trick, but today seems to be a little bit of a different story. I think it's because it's early, you know? I'm out of my zone. Again? Okay, okay. We have to skip it. We have to skip it then, I guess. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. We do have a lot of extra time. I'm going to go ahead and try it one more time. Marathon luck. It must be. It must be. Okay. I'm going to take it nice and slow. Set myself up. There we go. 5th time's the charm. That's what my father used to say. I was getting it mixed up. There we go. Pog me. All right. And onwards. Well, that effectively killed any chances of this run being some sort of world record or anything like that, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about that. We're just going to keep on going. I blinked, do it again. Oh, heck. You might have to go back. Nice. Okay, so now we're in Metro Kingdom, and if you guys watch the promotional stuff for this video game, you will realize that this is not the Metro Kingdom that you were led to believe to see. All the promotional stuff had Metro being a very, like, happy, joyful place, big, bustling, happy city. What is this nonsense? This is a mess. Well, it turns out that this town is being terrorized by a giant robot caterpillar, and so we need to defeat him before we can see that happy, joyful place. And if you've played this game casually, you already know that I'm just completely busting this open. It kind of wants you to go through the streets. It wants you to take this path specifically through the streets so that you can kind of get a feel for the layout, but instead we just jumped up a rooftop and we're just kind of flying right by the kingdom. Thank you, Timpani. I'm going to need all of the help that I can get from friends and family. Is this live, Mulan? It sure is. All right. So we just collected a couple moons that were really fast along the way. Nothing really special to report there. Oh, there we go. And this is the Mecha Wiggler. And in terms of Super Mario Odyssey is a speedrun that doesn't really have very much RNG in it. But this is one element of RNG. That first phase always goes the same. You capture the tank, everything's fine. But this second phase has probably about a dozen patterns that he can throw at you. And you just have to react to them all. You can 2-cycle any of the patterns. You don't want a 3-cycle, though. So hopefully we get a nice one. Yeah, this will do just fine. It's actually one of the better ones. All right. So we have another donation coming in from Scribble-Eye, $25 that says Baburblurk. Can we get some Baburblurks in the chat? All right. So that was Metro Kingdom. Well, the first path anyways. Why aren't I doing Sherm Skip? Okay, so Speaking of minimum captures in 1.0, the community recently found a way to skip doing this night metro portion. It's slow for any percent, and it's slow for a lot of other categories, but it is good for things where you don't have to capture the tank. All right, so we've made it happy. We've made it daytime again. But this does not count as world peace. You might be thinking, well, you brought peace to the kingdom, so aren't they good? Can't you leave? No. First of all, we need more moons, and a lot of the moons are only available in the daytime portion. So that's kind of a heck. The second thing is that we're going to be coming back here later, so we want to do some setup. Third thing is that we have not apparently achieved world peace yet. Pauline is not happy with the fact that we saved the day. She wants us to throw a festival for ourselves, and in order to do that, we need to collect a band, and then we also need to provide the city with more power by cleaning out this icky paint-like goop from the sewers. So those are two things that we need to do before we can leave. So that's what we're going to do. And shoutouts to the Ghost Band. Pauline is supposed to be here with the drummer, but I purposefully activated something that would make them just kind of disappear from that room the first time we visit it. Just for fun. Am I doing Darker Side or World Peace? Today is Darker Side. We're doing Darker Side today. Now, the band has 4 members, so we've got 2 of them so far. We just got to go about collecting a couple more here. Plant a couple seeds along the way, because they're just kind of conveniently there. And for a recap, if you guys don't know what Darker Side means, Darker Side is a kingdom, a bonus kingdom at the end of this game. Once you've beat the main story and collected 500 power moons, you're allowed to go to the Darker Side. And it is kind of like this game's hardest level, the hardest dungeon that this game has to offer. So get to the Darker Side. Get to the Darker Side, complete the Darker Side, win the video game. Well, that was kind of messy, but that's all right. We're going to go and... So we didn't really talk about these. These are hint arts. These little pictures strewn about the game. Those hint arts actually reveal the location of moons in this game. Mario, where are you going? Excuse me? Hello? They reveal the location of moons in this game. So if you look at them, then it reveals the location of ground pound moons somewhere else in the game. But, unfortunately, you know, as a speedrunner, you're like, well, you probably know where they are, so why don't you just go ground pound those spots? That doesn't work quite the same way. You actually have to physically look at the pictures in order for the moons to appear in those spots. So that's why we have to go out of our way to actually look at them. But it's not a big deal. So we have our band put together. Now we're in the sewers, and you can see this icky paint-like goop all over the bottom. Oh, that was kind of unexpected. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, hold on. Technical difficulties. Dangers.exe has stopped working. There we go. Now, should I go for the risky thing? Yes, I should. All right. So that's it. That's all we had to do. We cleared the goop. And now we just have to hit the big giant button of power. And that will provide the city with enough power to do this very extravagant festival that we're about to see. And to me, this was like, when I was playing casually, this is probably my favorite part of the entire game, is just witnessing this festival go down. So this is what we're going to do. And the festival is just a giant 2D section. I bet a world record. After that little stint in Lost Ash, it's too late. We can't world record this run. But yeah, very colorful, very, you know, kind of brings Mario together. It's like, I think Mario is over 30 years old, 35 years old or something like that. So really kind of just like brings the entire series together. That's pretty fun. Not to mention banging music. Yeah, now you know, when I was growing up and like Sonic games of the Dreamcast generation had like lyrics in them, and I used to think that's really weird. Like, I don't know if I like having lyrics in my video game music. Mario would never do such a thing. Little me should have known better. Jump up, don't be scared. Jump up and your cares soar away. So you're not supposed to take damage, but sometimes a little damage never hurt anybody. Oof. Okay, a little bit more damage, though, and now we've got some problems. But it's fine. We defeated Donkey Kong. Ba-ba, doodly-doo. All right, that's Metro Kingdom. Pretty cool place. But we're on to the rest. Just kidding. We actually have one more thing that we need to do. First of all, our moon count doesn't say that we have enough moons. You remember this guy? This is our little taxi friend. This is his second stop of the journey. I guess first stop, technically. But now each stop of his journey that he goes on, he's going to give us a power moon. So, just for free. He's just sitting there. So we're going to go ahead and grab that before we leave. Darker Side world record is 3:08:25, and it's held by me. And this category is actually gaining a lot of attention. There's a lot of people who have kind of taken a step back from any percent because it's a very optimized and sometimes not so fun category as a result of that, and are exploring this one instead. So it's getting some more attention. It's really heating up. I like to see it. All right. So we had another choice there, snow or seaside. For the sake of this particular category, it doesn't matter if we go to snow or seaside first, so we'll just mash through. We'll just mash right through. No big deal. Now, snow is a really important kingdom in this speedrun. Remember how in sand we just did a roll cancel clip directly into the side of the pyramid and went our way that way? Well, it turns out that you can do something like that here. This kingdom is built in a way that it's got 4 hallways at the end of this room, and those 4 hallways lead to little sub-areas. But the sub-areas are kind of slow to do. You need to collect 4 story moons in order to open up this little secret passageway that you can see with a little Bowser symbol up ahead there. But the reason that it's important for us to skip those rooms now is for 2 reasons. The first reason is that they're slow right now. The second reason is that when we open up the moon rocks that we were talking about earlier, when we get here in the post-game, those rooms actually have more moons for us than just the 2 that are originally available, making those rooms even more valuable to us in the post-game. All right, so here's the trick here. We're going to use this moon to clip out of bounds, just like we did in Cascade. And that's going to provide us access to this little hallway right here. Without having done any of those story moons, any of those rooms at all, suddenly we are in the final part of this kingdom. Now, this is... When I do these speedrun attempts on my own channel, this is always a really fun moment of the speedrun because this guy here, this is Snoodle. He's a very cute lad. He's sad that he doesn't know how to race. But it's okay, we're going to teach him. Now, I like to play a little fun game where we guess the time. We're about to do a little mini game. If you guys guess the time of the mini game correctly, whoever does to the exact 100th of a second, I will gift you a speedrun.com or a twitch.tv/speedrun subscription. How about that? I will do it. So get those guesses in the chat. Good guesses are 52 to 53 seconds. And we kind of just bound around. Fun little race. Very bouncy boy. All right. Final lap. Come around the corners. Knock that other guy out of the way because he's not important for this race. And 52-51, final time. I'll give it a couple seconds for the delay. Do we have any 52-51s in the chat? You know, I'm not seeing any. That's unfortunate. Better luck next time, gamers. All right. That's it. So, because we did that first part of Snow so fast, we actually didn't give ourselves enough moons to leave. But that's okay. That's okay. Now that the world peace has been restored, we've cleared the blizzard out of this area, and there are a lot of moons available to us now. So we're going to get some outside, including this little timer challenge here. And yes, shaking the controller does make you climb poles faster. Catch a bunny. Now, we were talking about RNG. This is another element of RNG in this speedrun. This little fishing minigame. I got good RNG. That doesn't usually happen. I could say that, like, maybe it's like 50-50. 50-50 you get the first bite. 50-50 you can sometimes just be sitting there for generations. So... Is this live gameplay, Slowbro54? Yes, it absolutely certainly is. All right. So yeah, we're chilling. We're at about the hour mark of this marathon. This marathon, by the way, 10-hour marathon going on for a charity event right now. We've got donations coming in. If you want to support this charity marathon, you can do so by typing !donate. All proceeds go to Diabetes Prevention and Aid Fund. So, gaming for a good cause. Thank you guys for joining, by the way. It's nice to have you all. I'm feeling pretty cozy as we fly through Super Mario Odyssey together. And we're not even at the best part. We are still in the early game. We're still setting up for the post-game. And the post-game is where stuff gets pretty crazy. We're going to be collecting moons at a rate of about 1 moon per 20 seconds. So, that's pretty fast. Pretty fast. All right, now we're in Seaside. Seaside is the home of my absolute favorite boss of this entire game, mainly because he has a really dope name. The kingdom itself is pretty bland. If you want to get all the story moons, there's no way to, like, sequence break the story, but that's okay, because I really enjoy fighting this boss. Oh, we planted that in the wrong pot. That kind of sucks. So I'm actually going to remedy that. For Marathon's sake, I'm going to go ahead and do something to plant that seed right away. Or make it grow right away. I'm going to go into my Switch menu. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. But if you do this with your Switch menu, you can actually make the seed grow immediately. So that's what I'm going to do. Turns out that there are 4 pots on the ceiling there. One of those pots takes an hour for the seed to grow, and I accidentally planted it in that one. So if I didn't change my clock forward, it actually wouldn't have fully grown into a plant by the time we got here again. So that is what we must do. Now, the story in this kingdom revolves around getting our boss friend to get off the top of the glass. You can see him sitting up there. His name is... Wait, what is it again? I said he had a really dope name, but it's just not coming to me right now. It's weird. Anyways, him, little octopus boy, he is terrorizing this place with spiky bombs, and we need to get him off the top of the glass. And we do that primarily by unlocking the 4 seals. So that's what we're going to do. And we obviously need enough moons to leave the kingdom as well, so we're going to get some fast ones along the way. Hey, you missed that moon. That's right, I did. So, you saw me spawn the notes. You saw me get all the notes. You saw me spawn the moon. And then I kind of just left it there. It's because I don't like it. I just wanted to show you guys that collecting the notes reveals a moon, but I actually don't need it. I'm just going to leave it there. So that's 3 of 4 seals down. Now, we're actually taking this little gushy boy on an adventure. Our little squid friend. The squid friend is going to help us traverse this kingdom. Now, refilling his water is pretty simple. You just get into a body of water. But you can also refill his water by collecting power moons. And also by hitting checkpoints. So we're actually going to be using those to our advantage to keep him alive. And keep his water supply high so that we can just traverse this kingdom really fast. And also, we're just about to get hit. Maybe if I throw my cap fast enough. Hey, we got him. Get hecked. Get hecked, sea bacon. All right. This is our 4th seal, our last remaining seal. And now that we're going to hit this button and we're going to pop the cap off of this seal, it's going to anger our dear friend, the Squid Boy, which, by the way, his name is Brigadier Mollusk Lancier III Dauphin of Bablaine. And no, you cannot make that kind of stuff up. So now he's angry. He's down here. He's got a lava on his head. That's how you know he's angry. He's also got a very big head. So, obviously, we're going to hit it. Now, this boss fight is probably my favorite out of all of them. It is the same. I know exactly where he's going to end up every single phase of this fight. So it is not complicated for me to just kind of show up and anticipate where he's going to be next. We have to kind of manipulate him to continue moving forward in the kingdom by hitting certain, like, invisible checkpoints. But then we're going to try and beat him to this hot spring. And he's going to behave very strangely, so I'm just going to beat him here. Hit him in the head, and, you know, Brigadier Mollusk Lancier III Dauphin of Bablaine.exe has stopped responding and just kind of clips right into the hot spring. Oh yeah, I picked up that moon, by the way. It's actually optimal for you to leave that moon for the boss fight specifically because you have to wait for him to come around the lighthouse anyway. So if you just leave it there, you can grab it during the boss fight. It saves a couple seconds. We got another donation coming in, you guys. $5 from Power is Pizza. Thank you for your donation, my friend. And just like that, Seaside is over. On to the next one. And I was mentioning earlier that Luncheon is probably my favorite kingdom as far as just like an aesthetic perspective. It's the prettiest kingdom for me to look at. And I hope that you guys agree, because it's a good one. The fact that it is a lava level disguised as something else is very creative and very cool to me. All right. That is that. And yeah, Luncheon Kingdom is next. As you can see, we're beating all the bosses on purpose, and it'll all make sense when we get to the post-game. Everything's going to kind of come together when we get past the main story of this game. It's all going to make sense, the reason that we're setting things up the way that we are. All right. How long does it take to get every moon? So there is a speedrun category called All Moons. What was that? That was an interesting dive. There is a speedrun category called All Moons, where you get 880 of the moons, which is all of them. And the world record for that category is 7 hours and 29 minutes. It takes most normal people about 12 hours on their first try, though. I should say, when I say normal people, I should say, like, any percent speedrunners. Prominent any percent speedrunners still take 12 hours to finish that category the first time. This game is huge, and there's a lot to it. The any percent category really only scratches the surface. But because this game is a collectathon type of game, there is a lot more to it than just getting through the main portion of the game, getting to beat Bowser at the end. And I like Darker Side. I think Darker Side is my favorite category of this game because it's a perfect happy medium. It does have a lot, but Darker Side takes out a lot of the fluff that All Moons has. It takes out a lot of the moons that are maybe not so fun to collect. Things like volleyball, things like jump rope, things like most of Toadette's really arduous achievements. Sheep herding, some of the less fun sub-areas, the auto-scrolling sub-areas. But you still get to see all the kingdoms, and you still get to revisit them all, except for 2. Another thing about Luncheon that I really love is the music. Am I going to do XD skip? Now, I know that XD skip is a meme. I probably will not go for it because not only is it risky, but it loses time. So, probably not. I'll show you a faster one. Maybe you guys will like it more. Probably not. But we'll see. Oh, I messed it up. So, one thing I will mention about this game that maybe isn't so great is that because you're using a wireless controller, sometimes input drops happen, and you just kind of have to deal with them. But yeah. This is always a really fun sub-area to show off because it looks really scary if you haven't practiced it. But we just, you know, we jump through. We make pretty quick work. Get one fast moon back here. Now, this is another really big kingdom. Oh. There we go. This is another really big kingdom, and the story progression of this kingdom is broken up into 2 parts. The first part is becoming this big slab of meat and having Cookatiel drop you into this soup pot so that you can get this first multi-moon. But for some reason, that series of activities makes the volcano very angry, and it starts erupting, and it sends you back to the Odyssey, and you have to do it again. You have to make your way back up to the top of the volcano again to fight Cookatiel in the soup pot. So that's what we're going to do next. And we grab that checkpoint on purpose so that we can go back to it. And again, this all has to do with setup. This checkpoint's going to be useful for us to kind of traverse the kingdom again. Get some fast moons on our way back up. Now, another reason that I really like Luncheon is because it provides us a lot of like really cool platforming. As you can tell, it's made up of these weird like neon-colored geometric shapes. And it's also a very vertical kingdom when you get close to the mountain. Oh, that was not my finest movement. But this, you know, this verticality and these geometric shapes provide a lot of, like, platforming opportunities. So I kind of messed up that one, but you're going to see some other really cool ones in a second here. Including this little section here. We use the lava bubble to kind of traverse this little section. And it looks like we have another $10 donation from Powers Pizza again. Thank you so much for your continued support, my friend. Get those donations in, chat. It benefits charity. Do it for the people. Do it for a good cause. Exclamation mark donate if you need some information on donating. I'm gonna use this little piranha boy to light up these lanterns. Now, if I can nail this movement, it'll look really good. If I don't, then it'll look really bad, so... Alright, it looked pretty good. We'll take that. A lot of that movement is inspired by a minigame called Koopa Freerunning. When you get to the post-game, there's a little Koopa Troopa that hangs around, and he's hanging out by a leaderboard sign. If you talk to him, you get to engage in a little minigame where you, like, race across the kingdom that you're in. And it just so happens that Koopa Freerunning does take that kind of trek up the side of the mountain like that really fast. Now, we do some RTA strats because we don't want to lose the entire run to trying to be too flashy, but it's still a pretty cool series of movement nonetheless. Yeah, basically, if Koopa the Quick had, like, some nephews or something, that's what the Koopa Freerunning Koopas are like. All right. And just like that, Cookatiel has been vanquished. Now, that boss fight is not my favorite. It's not my favorite because the hitboxes in this game are a little bit suggestive, I guess. They don't always work the way that you think they should. But I actually got a pretty good fight there. It didn't give me too much trouble, so... And with that, we can leave. Now, this is another one of those story progression moments where the game says that you're going to go and take on Bowser now. You're going to go and face Bowser in his own turf. But but then you very drastically get sidetracked and shot off in another direction. Obviously, we're not going to see that part because the cutscenes are getting skipped here. But essentially, we're going to get launched off to the Ruined Kingdom. And the Ruined Kingdom was a pretty jarring kingdom for some people when they first played this game casually. It's not necessarily a kingdom that people expected to see in a game like this, especially the boss that lives here. It's very, very interesting. Now, while we're here, we're going to go ahead and get one fast power moon that exists here in this little treasure chest. Before making our way up to where we need to go, this little wire. And this is Spyro the Dragon in HD. He has gained lightning powers and grown massively and is going to take that out on Mario for some reason. Now, this is probably the most boring fight in the entire game, and unfortunately it exists in every single category of this game as well, because there's no way to skip the Ruined Kingdom, there's no way to leave without getting this multi-moon, so we just have to do it. But unfortunately, there's no real mechanics to it that make it any faster or slower. You just have to wait for him to shoot his lightning at you. That's why I make Captain Toad dance. This guy is Captain Toad, by the way. I can't go into first person, I was going to, but he's in the ground, he's chilling. Nintendo actually soft-patched Captain Toad and Luigi hint arts into this game after it was released about a year ago, and they provide you 200 coins if you ground pound the locations of them. And these ones you don't have to look at hint arts to reveal, and they only give you coins, they don't give you power moons. So these are very handy because, you know, we need coins for various things. We buy a lot of moons in this run. We also might need coins for something called the Toadette achievements. We'll talk about Toadette achievements in a moment. And just like that, it's over. So yeah. Honestly, I think that's probably, aside from the Toadette achievements that I was talking about, like way at the end of the run, that's probably the most boring part of the whole run, is just kind of getting that fight over with. It's one of those things that you just kind of do with your eyes closed. It's an auto-scroller, not anything you can really do to fix it. But we're on our way. Me and my good friend Limcube used to have like a trash talk section. When Super Mario Odyssey had its own league on this channel, we used to do commentary together, and we would always just try and find ways to spice this part of the run up because it is just very, you know, uneventful. But now we're in Bowser's Kingdom. Now the speedrun is about to be eventful again, because this run in particular, this kingdom in particular, can be very, very dangerous. It is kind of a showcase of all of the platforming skills that you need, all brought together into one kingdom and separated by these giant platforms. Each section of this kingdom lives on an island of its own, as you can kind of see here. So the first thing I'm going to show off is a little capture warp strategy. We're going to use this guy, we're going to leave him on the roof, and we're also going to leave Cappy on the roof. We're going to jump down to get this moon, and then Cappy is going to zip us right back up to that burb so we can continue along as if we never even went down in the first place. That is called a capture warp, also affectionately referred to as the community by as DRAM. Those are called DRAM strategies. We're actually going to do another one in Bowser's Kingdom later on. As you may or may not be aware, there is a lot of confusion in the Odyssey community about the various DRAM strats. DRAM strats are specific movement techniques in Super Mario Odyssey that have quite a bit of history behind them. The first one was named after a sand strategy, and Dram is actually a speedrunner, Dram55. He used to run this game for a very brief moment in time. He never actually performed the runs himself, or performed the trick himself in a run. He just theorized it and said, please don't name it after me, so the community named it after him. Also, this is a really cool part. Assuming I don't mess it up, which I don't think I did. That's pretty good, actually. All right. Now, it just so happens that there are a couple of quick moons along the way. Now, this kingdom kind of is tricky. If you've noticed, in the top left corner is a little counter that ticks off every moon as we collect it. In the past kingdoms, there were little outlines determining how many moons we needed to progress. They're suddenly missing from this kingdom. It doesn't actually tell us how many moons we need to leave in this kingdom. And the reason for that is, you know, story-related. The game is trying to tell us this is the last place that we need to go, but it isn't. It kind of debates you and sends you on a different path. The real number is 8. There are 6 story moons, so we need to collect 2 extra. But because this is Darker Side, and we're going to be returning here later, and we want to get fast moons along the way, we're actually going to be getting more than that. Also, another little capture warp strategy there, as you can see. So this kingdom actually has 3 in the Darker Side speedrun. There was the one at the beginning with the bird. There's that one there with the pylon, and you're going to see another one here right away as well. They're all really cool. Anytime you get to pull off a capture warp strategy, like, very, very cool. So we're going to set this guy up down here. This moon takes a while to spawn in. Oh. Which is the reason we don't grab it right away, is because it's not quite grabbable yet. Grab the moon up top, grab the moon down below, and then get ourselves into the pylon. Now we're going to approach ourselves a rematch. This is Harriet. Now, the first time we faced Harriet, she threw her bombs directly at us. She's not going to do that this time. She's going to throw them at, like, a diagonal, 2 of them. And so we kind of have to, like, angle ourselves in a specific way and then throw Cappy out in order to kind of predict where the bombs are going to be. But she's the only one of 2 rematches that we need to do. The second one is Topper. So we got to beat up this lad as well. Okay. Never seen that happen before. That's interesting. It's kind of like he just ignored my hit. But anyways. We're good. We've accomplished our goal. You like the hair? Hey, thank you. Coming up in this marathon, we're actually doing a 10-hour marathon right now to benefit charity. Coming up later in this marathon is going to be a good friend of mine named Dave Stereo running Celeste. True Ending, I believe. He has wicked hair. He's got better hair than I do, I'll tell you that. All right. So, they were just the gatekeepers. Now things get serious. We're actually going to show down with Bowser for real. We're just going to go ahead and grab a couple moons along the way. Including this one. This is one of my favorites. Setting up this guy to break the boxes and then just vaulting away. All right. And just Captain Toad chilling on a platform in the back there. Don't mind him. He's doing his thing. He's hanging out. And we're going to grab our burb friend. Can we get some burbs in the chat? Anybody got burbs? He's going to help us climb this wall. Get this checkpoint. And now we're going to do a strat, very, very hard strat called Fast Timpanino Poke Dram. That's probably the hardest strat in the entire game. Like, no questions asked. It's exceptionally hard. And also, it saves 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So, we're gonna fight Bowser. Just kidding, we're gonna fight this giant robot that has a rabbit's face on it. Now, since we're skipping the story elements, basically Bowser just kind of baited us up here so that the Brutals can try and finish off Mario. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's not so fine. That sucks. It's okay. So the idea of this fight is to stay on the top as long as you possibly can. Things did not go quite as the way that I wanted, so we're going to have to wait for this very long phase to finish before we get back up on top. Ow. Or maybe we'll die. Maybe that'll happen instead. So this guy's going to stop. He's going to throw bombs at us. Should I still go for it? Yeah. Okay, we got the fast last hit at least. And that's that fight. And blows up into a series of fireworks, conveniently shaped after their faces. Now, it makes you wonder, you know? Like, obviously, I'm breaking the logic of this video game a little bit, but, like, why did they have fireworks, like, set up to blow up in the shape of their own faces inside of a killing machine? You know what I mean? Very interesting. Fantasy worlds don't make sense, is what I'm trying to say. All right. So, Bowser has taken Princess Peach off to an unknown place. We got Jebaited to come here. So we're just going to grab one fast power moon behind the Odyssey here and be on our way to the final battle. Why did it give me a power moon? True. I guess a lot of things in this game just have power moons, and they don't really explain where they come from. But that's not important. What is important is just the friends we made along the way, I think. That's what my father used to say anyways. All right. So it turns out that the secret final location is actually the moon. Because this whole time, Bowser has been going to all of these kingdoms and stealing a particularly important item along the way in every single kingdom. And all of these items were in preparation of his wedding with Princess Peach. So we have to confront him at the wedding chapel on the moon in order to stop this from happening. Because, I mean, it just makes sense. Bowser is performing Mario Universe's version of a shotgun wedding, and Mario is here to save the day. But of course, this being Darker Side, we still need to go through the kingdoms, and we need to get ourselves all of the moons that are fast. So we're going to take our time to get to the chapel. We're going to go ahead and grab some fast moons along the way. do kind of a scary triple jump over this crevice. Now, it's interesting to me that the Moon Kingdom, I mean, obviously it makes sense for a platforming game to have, like, never-ending pits, but the surface of the moon is exceptionally, like, barren and also, like, just a giant deep hole in the ground. It's interesting how this maintains its composition as a planet. But then again, semantics. You know, I'm picking on the video game for not making sense again. I shouldn't do that. All right, so this is a very famous skip in this video game. This was found basically day one of this speedrun. This is called the Moon Cave skip. And basically, by doing a series of wall jumps, we're able to skip this entire chunk of the story progression, which is the Moon Cave. That Moon Cave is supposed to take about 20, or not 20, gosh, what am I saying? It takes about 3.5 minutes to get through optimally. So by doing that jump, we actually just, like, save ourselves the trouble. Nice. Tried to do something new there, but it didn't work. That's okay. As long as you get up on top. You're ready for cooler XD skip, okay. I'll be sure not to disappoint. Oop. Skipping cutscenes too early, you gotta love that. That sad moment when you're too fast. Alright, so, this is our second confrontation with Bowser. Again, he's got the very suave hair. You think my hair's really good? Check out Bowser's, dude. He's got it going on. Now, this is very much the same as the first fight, with the exception of this intermediate phase where he spits fire at you. The fire is not very dangerous at all. In fact, I'll give you an example of how not dangerous it is. Even though it looks big and fluffy and powerful, this fire is actually just a bar scan on the ground, and I can kind of just roll over it. So, not dangerous at all. And then, same thing, we're just going to line ourselves up with the hats, turn around, backflip, throw Cappy, grab the hat right away. And that's it. This fight is over. And you might think, well, Bowser's defeated. That's great. But then a cutscene plays that kind of goes over the moon exploding, which is really dramatic, and I don't understand why, but that's fine. And this, honestly, aside from the festival, was probably like the coolest part of the game for me. I saw it coming from a mile away. I was like, this game has capture mechanics. You're going to be able to capture Bowser at the end. But still kind of blows me away, you know? We've got this, like, very dramatic scene set out with the moon all turning orange and fiery and exploding. And you get to control Bowser as you escape from the moon. This is the escape sequence here. And it does come with a couple of extra little speedrun tricks, including this 2D section here. For the longest time, we actually didn't realize that you could run as Bowser. That obviously speeds this up a little bit. Now, this is a very infamous skip called the 2D skip. Saves about 2 seconds. Used to kill world record pace runs all the time. That there is what we call the fast XD skip. Same kind of idea, doing like a backwards jump to land on a platform above you. That one saves significantly less time, but that's okay. Looks pretty cool. All right. And now the final room. Now, the really scary part about this part of the game is that if I were to die right now, I would go back to the beginning of the escape sequence. I would have to do the 2D section again. I would have to do all of that stuff again. So, making sure that you don't die in this pillar room is kind of important. Basically, we throw fireballs at that first one on the right side just to get it out of the way as fast as we possibly can. you about breaking the other ones. All right. 125.20 for my moon exit time. Is not too bad. Usually when I'm on world record pace runs, my moon time will be like a 122. So definitely not my greatest time that I've left the moon at, but that does make sense because we tried some tricks and we failed them a bunch of times. So, but now things get interesting. We've finally arrived at this, you know, this promised land that I've been talking about this whole time, which is called the post-game. And the post-game provides us fast moons, fast moons. We've done the story, we've done all of that stuff. We've basically gone through all of the main content that has cutscenes and things. So now that we're in the post-game, this is where things speed up. This is where things get really interesting, and we're collecting moons at a rate of about 1 moon every 20 seconds at the slowest. We just have a little bit of extra setup to do in Mushroom Kingdom, and then we'll be on our way. And this, of course, was a pretty jarring scene. I was like, man, they have a Mushroom Kingdom when you beat this game the first time. So we're going to take this seed over here. Oh, that one didn't want to go in. Classic. So just a little bit of setup here. We have to talk to this toad. This toad here basically tells us that Princess Peach is missing and they don't know why. It turns out that she's actually just on vacation. But if you don't talk to that toad, then Princess Peach doesn't go on vacation. Princess Peach gives us power moons in every kingdom that we visit her in. So it's important that we talk to that toad to get her on her vacation for another couple of free power moons. This is one of my favorite power moons in the game. Very satisfying to just unlock all those tiles really fast like that. Now that is Toadette. At the top of the stairs there, you saw for a minute, that's Toadette. Toadette is going to play a very important role in this speedrun because a lot of the routing that we've done, a lot of determining what makes moons fast, has a lot to do with Toadette. Also, I didn't disturb the burp. Good job. Good job, Dangers. Toadette gives us moons for having accomplished tasks, I guess. She has what are called achievement moons, and these achievement moons are essentially arbitrary. She'll give us moons for things like having beat the game, having saved Princess Peach, having achieved world peace. She'll give us a power moon for jumping 10,000 times. She'll give us a power moon for collecting a certain amount of outfits. And a lot of this particular category was actually routed around the fact that when she gives you one of those moons, it only takes about 8 seconds. So the more Toadette moons that we can get, the faster that our speedrun is going to be. Oops. And Captain Toad's chilling here. We have $20 coming in from BDEF, and he says, GSA fire. Can we get some GSA fires in the chat? All right. So, we're in the Snow Kingdom, and we got to the Snow Kingdom via a painting. This is going to be the beginning of the painting chain. Now, the painting chain is really important because when we go through a painting, we get to keep all of the moons that we have on hand. They just stay in our inventory. They just stay in our inventory, and they don't move anywhere. If you were to leave a kingdom via the Odyssey, you would have to go through a whole sequence of putting the moons into the Odyssey and watching them get deposited, and the balloon on top goes whoop, and then the number gets bigger. You would have to watch all of that every single time, but the painting chain is really important because you get to skip all of that. And most of the kingdoms, not all of them, but most of them are connected to this painting chain, so we're going to be using it for probably the next hour or so. And you saw we opened up that big slab of rock that was glowing from the inside. That is the moon rock I was talking about. You can't open those moon rocks until you've achieved world peace in the kingdoms. So that was why it was so important for us to do that. Now I'm actually going to employ a bit of a new strategy here. So hopefully I'm able to get this. We'll see. We're just going to wait for this guy to stop blowing. Hey, we got it. All right. Now, we're back in this part of snow. Now, remember that we were talking about how important the sequence break is? The reason that we clipped directly into the end of this kingdom and went out of bounds and did the bound bowl before going in these hallways is because the moon rock reveals one extra moon in each of these rooms. If we were to come in here before the post game, each of these rooms would only have 2 moons in them, but now each of them has 3, which is going to make them much better for us. You know, we're getting 1 moon for the price of 2, essentially. And also, another thing about breaking the sequence is that sometimes it treats the game doesn't really know how to respond. So this room is basically the same as it is in the early game. You know, you have to blow all those spinies off the platform to get the moon to spawn. That's normal, that's fine. But it just so turns out that the other rooms that we're going to go into the sequence break has actually kind of ruined them. So you'll see what I mean in a second. Now, this room in particular, when you get to the top of this like snowy mountain, Rango is waiting for you. Rango is the tall bunny. He's waiting for you at the top of the kingdom. He wants to fight you. This fight is particularly annoying because the ice physics make it weird, but we've actually just broken the game enough that he's reduced to this pile of ice, and that's apparently even harder for me to accomplish, so there we go. Truth is, Rango actually doesn't really matter. He's just become this moon on this platform. We don't need to fight him, it just is waiting here for us. Which is really handy. Now, this is the last hallway we're going to go through, so we don't actually visit all 4 of the rooms, but that's because the 4th room is really slow. So we're going to avoid going in there at all. And it's kind of funny to me that these like story moons still have like this whole cinematic cutscene associated with them. This moon actually doesn't spawn until we've collected 5 moon shards, but like I said, because we broke the sequence, we've kind of confused the game into not knowing what to do. Now we're going to come back down into this Bound Bowl arena. A couple fast moons waiting for us here. We could do the Bound Bowl again, but the Bound Bowl by itself is pretty slow, so we're not going to bother. Especially because the second time doing it will only give us 1 power moon instead of 3. Heck. do. Now, that's about as many fast moons as we need in Snow Kingdom. We're going to go ahead and leave. And we're going to leave through the painting. Like I said, the painting chain is really important because the paintings are fast. Oops, that's not going to line up well. But getting up to this painting is a little bit trickier than it looks. The way that the game intends for you to get up there is to use what are called taifus, which are those like wind-blowing enemies, and blow a set of stairs over to that so you can climb up naturally. We don't have time for that. So instead, we're just going to manipulate the physics of the wall and do a little jump up instead. How long have I been playing this game? I've been playing this game since May of 2018, so just about 2 years now. Holy buckets. Okay, so we got another donation coming in. We've got $50, 50 from Data Love. Thank you so much, Data Love, for supporting GSA and also Diabetes Prevention and Aid Fund, my friend. Thank you so much. So that trick that you saw me do just there, that was called the Dino Skip. Technically, we're supposed to do that twice, but I skipped Dino Skip earlier. He's just going to get us to the top of the kingdom. Now, you might be wondering, Dangers, why did you just capture that guy? He didn't do anything for you. You're right, he didn't. I'll explain in a moment. Oh, I knew it. I knew that wasn't going to work. I'll try it again. So basically, capturing that guy is important because of the Toadette achievements that we were talking about earlier. Toadette gives us one of those arbitrary achievements for having captured a certain amount of enemies. Different enemies. Dude, where's my cap? Heck. I did DSS in this run? I sure did. Okay, one more time for the boys. There it is. Was it first try? It was. We did get DSS on the first try. Whoa. Hello? There we go. No! So, sometimes this game, sometimes this game just kind of treats you unfairly. And I'm kind of getting treated unfairly right now, but that's okay. Now this kingdom, like, Cascade is the second kingdom in the game. You might be thinking, oh, it's not that scary. There's nothing really that wrong with Cascade. These cloud platforms in particular are one of the reasons why Cascade is kind of unforgiving. That Goomba is not my friend. That you skip a skip. Yeah, you're right, Parts. It is kind of funny that that is the case. It's not the only speedrun game to have something like that either. There are other games that have skips as well. Okay. What is DSS? DSS stands for Dino Skip Skip. And it was something that we did at the very beginning of the run. Oh boy. Good job, Cappy. Okay, so we're actually... This looks a little bit trickier than... Or it looks easier than it actually is. Like, this trick is something that you might not really take for a trick at all. But basically, throwing that chain chomp against that rock does not always work the intended way. I had to do some like trickery, and I had to pull the chain chomp in a specific direction in order to make it work properly. But I'm glad that we were able to get it off anyways. But yeah, as you can see, this post-game is just rapid fire. Now that we're in the post-game, it's all about just getting through it as fast as possible. We've got all these moons lined up at our disposal. And we're just making our way through. Just very quickly grabbing moons left and right. All right. This next moon upcoming, Neo taught me a thing, and I tried to do it in my last run, and it didn't work. So hopefully I don't get jebaited again. So one cool thing that most people don't know about is those rolling rocks. They can break instantly under certain conditions. You don't actually have to kick them 400 times to make the moon pop out. If you smash them against another rock, or if you use the dino to... if you use the dino to break them open, then they just break open instantly, which is very handy. That's not what... See, that doesn't work. That's okay. All right. It gets to the point where, like, there's very, very little opportunities for me to even, like, drink my coffee or take a sip of water or something when it gets to this point of the run, because the only breaks you get are these, like, 2.5-second breaks when you capture moons. It's... What was the Neo thing? Just basically making it so that I can capture the wire and have the dino out of the way of that ground pound moon at the same time, but it didn't work for me. I still haven't figured it out. You'll have to ask him about it. All right. So we're almost at the end of our Cascade journey. In typical Odyssey fashion, we are getting our inputs eaten everywhere we go, but that's okay. And off to Bowser's Kingdom is the next location. This kingdom is super, super fun. Got a lot of, like I said, a lot of those like platforming tricks and tips. There's going to be a lot of those here. Suvrobot, oh my goodness, coming in with $120 worth of donations. Thank you so much. Oh, heck. That's a lot of dollars, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for contributing. All right. So Bowser's Kingdom starts out with a pretty scary fly through the stage. We also have $5 coming in from Purple Love. Much appreciated, friend. Thank you so much. All right. Hello? There it is. Where is Luigi? Good question. Luigi, he runs his own little minigame called Luigi's Balloon World, but Luigi's Balloon World is an online feature. And so we kind of have to leave him alone for this speedrun. There's so many like little tips and tricks to this run that I could go over in specific detail. The reasons that I'm doing things, like for example that moat, instead of like ground pounding through the water, which is really slow, I like drop myself off the edge specifically so that I can fall through the air instead of the water. All right. And now, again, we're gonna talk about the moon rock for a second. So a lot of these moons that I'm getting right now, not all of them, but most of them, are only available if we break open that moon rock, which is why getting world peace is so important. That's why breaking open the moon rock is so important. That's why getting to the post game in a way that makes you set up is really important. Like this one, for example. This one actually doesn't exist outside of the moon rock. So unless you break open the moon rock, that moon is not going to appear. But it is just sitting there kind of in your way. Here's another one. Let's see if I can get the fast strat on this. That's the first part down. Yeah, perfect. I think I just beat the sheet. All right. Now this sub area, if you remember playing this sub area casually, you might be thinking like, there's no way that this sub area is fast. You have to like take all the little statues all across the entire level and do like puzzles and stuff. Not if you do that. If you do that, it's pretty fast. Hey Upai, thank you for the good luck. All right. I know, cheating in my children's video game, I can't believe it. Dangerous, how could you? All right, buy this little shot moon, do a little warp here. Now this section is actually one of my favorite, just like... It's a tiny little chunk of the run. It makes up for, I think, like 4 moons. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it makes up for 4 moons. But it's just so unique and so cool with, like, the platforming stuff that you do in this particular chunk. Oh, well, minus taking damage. That's not fun. That I just, like, I kind of fall in love with it. Like, I'm going to purposefully throw Cappy out here so that I can spin on the ground, roll into Cappy like that, and make my way all the way around this way. You could do that without doing that. You could do a long jump instead, but it's faster to do it the way that I just did. And then there is a really, really fast way to get this moon, but I also just like doing it like that as well. And then we leave the burb. Bye, burb. It's okay, we're gonna go say hello to a different bird instead. So, I might have mentioned it earlier today, but birds are actually exceptionally important in this speedrun. When we are talking fast moons, there are a lot of moons related to birds that are exceptionally fast in this speedrun. They just kind of, some of them are just sitting there. Some of them are birds that are just like flying around the kingdom, going on a little journey, and you like have to catch them out of the air. All right. That was interesting. But it worked out the way I wanted, so That's okay. And as far as fast moons in Bowser's are concerned, that's going to be it. There was another moon on that platform to the side, collecting all the notes, but that is very, very slow. So we're going to skip that one. And now we're in Seaside. And Seaside is a very gentle kingdom. Oops. You can see that that plant is really tall. That was the reason that we switched our clock forward, so that that plant would be grown. Because from the time that I was last in Seaside to now, it would not have fully grown yet. Oh, that was interesting. Hello? There we go. But now you can kind of see that all the setup is starting to come together, right? We're breaking open moon rocks and we're saving a bunch of time that way. The seeds that we're planting are now fully grown into moons. The moon rocks are getting open, so we've got all these moons that are kind of just sitting out in the open air. And it lets us just kind of pick them up as we go along. All right. So that moon, for example, was not always there. That was a moon rock moon. So is this one hiding in the ground. Can we also get some birds in the chat? We're going to catch this bird out of the air. He's going to give us a moon. Good boy. Good lad. All right. And, you know, sometimes there's not a whole lot to say about this. Sometimes it really is just a matter of, you know, we've set ourselves up in a way where we just are kind of cruising through the kingdom and we're just picking up the moons like they're a candy trail. And I think Seaside is a good example of that. There's not a whole lot to say about Seaside. It's pretty standard. Not a whole lot of tricks. Not a whole lot of, like, crazy stuff going on in this kingdom. But I can kind of explain some stuff. There's some cool stuff in here. Like that, for example. I'm just positioning myself in behind a Cheep Cheep so that when Cappy comes back to me after being on that little spinny bit, I just capture the fish right away. Don't have to throw Cappy again. Now, we're actually going to perform a trick that was found probably about a year ago now, actually. It's almost a year old. It's kind of crazy to think about. But it was discovered that you can get out of bounds in this kingdom in a kind of an interesting and unique way. So the game doesn't let you push past this invisible barrier, right? There's an invisible barrier there saying, hey, this is the edge of the world. But by manipulating this fish and placing him right on the edge of it, I'm actually able to just kind of wiggle him out past the invisible wall and out of bounds. Why was that moon differently colored? That's a good question. So the hint arts that we've been looking at throughout the game, those hint arts are in different kingdoms. And they direct you to a hidden location in a different kingdom, right? So the hint art in that kingdom was actually Luncheon. We looked at a hint art in Luncheon, and it spawned the moon in Seaside. So that moon was actually colored the same as a moon would be in Luncheon. And it actually counts as a Luncheon moon, which is kind of funny. If you look at your moon list. So we're going to use Glide-On to get up on the edge of the railing there. We're going to catch this bunny. See, this is what I mean by this kind of like candy trail. We're basically just like lining all the moons up together so that we can get them really, really fast all at once. This little squid guy, he's not a squid, he's a snail. The little snail guy, all he wants to do is see Glydon. He's really happy about Glydon. So the fact that we were able to show Glydon to him is enough for him to give us a power moon. All right. Heck. Am I going to be fast enough? No. Unfortunately not. That's okay. And traverse our way through this level here. I need to figure out, like, what the fastest... Oh, don't do that. That was bad. What the fastest way to get all these notes is. I wonder if there's a best theoretical clip for this. I mean, there obviously is. I wonder if I'd be able to replicate it is more an accurate question. Okay. And so now we're in the fish again. And we're just going to capture a couple fast moons. Not a whole lot of things to explain about this particular part of the run. Like I said, we're just kind of following the trail, picking up fast moons along the way. Oh, there's a sea bacon in our way. That kind of sucks. Nice. I'm just going to wait for this guy. I don't want to take damage. So I tried to do a camera manipulation there. You can kind of pick when he spawns depending on where the camera is. So I guess I should explain a little bit of a weird quirk. Camera manipulations are very important in this game because the way that this game works is that if something is not on camera, sometimes it just doesn't exist. That includes enemies, that includes platforms, that includes all sorts of things like that. So sometimes we can use that to our advantage, depending on where we point the camera. Unfortunately, I messed it up there. I've been bonking in that little corridor lately. I don't understand why that keeps happening, but that's okay. So now Seaside is done. Seaside, not the most exciting kingdom in the run. We're kind of just here to pick up power moons and then leave. But now we're in Wooded. And remember, Wooded was actually a kingdom that we just kind of left. What pace is this? I don't think it really matters. We're just kind of getting through. We're doing a charity event. I guess we're almost at the 2-hour mark of the speedrun. So this is a perfect time for me to shout out our what this is all about. Today we're doing a 10-hour marathon. A 10-hour speedrun marathon for charity. Hosted here at twitch.tv/speedrun. ! Donate if you guys want to get some money in for the charity. It is for the benefit of diabetes prevention and aid fund. So, obviously, gaming for a good cause. Pretty sure in your game it's another painting leading here? Okay, we can talk about that for a second as well. So when you get to this part, when you get to the wooded and lake kingdoms in the game, it asks you to pick one of two paths. And the path that you pick will change the order of the paintings. It's the reason that it was so important that we picked wooded first, in fact. Wooded first saves us about 3 seconds. And the reason it does is because of the hint arts that we've been looking at. Those hint arts that reveal the locations of moons. The one that's in Wooded leads to a moon that's in the Sand Kingdom. Now, if we look at that painting in the Sand Kingdom, or if we look at that painting in Wooded and then go to the Sand Kingdom, the moon is going to spawn. If we choose Wooded first, it also means that Wooded appears first before Sand in the post-game as well, in the order of the painting chain, which means that we can look at the hint art in the second visit instead of the first one, and that is what saves about 3 seconds. And it's the only reason we do it, really. Otherwise, we could just mash through and pick Lake first, and it wouldn't make a difference. Yeah, my estimate is 315. My place on the leaderboard is a little bit higher than that, I suppose. It's like in my usual PB attempts, runs don't usually come in much slower than that. 315 is usually what you can expect to see. All right. So I kind of glazed over that boss. There's not really much to say. He kind of just exists. He's kind of just chilling. He's kind of just doing his thing. All you have to do is run around with the little speedy nut lad and bop all the glowy circles, and then you win. But now we have finally achieved world peace. World peace is achieved and restored to all of the kingdoms. Wooded was the last to go. Oh, that rabbit just jebaited us hard there. That's okay. But now that we've achieved world peace, that means that the moon rock is available to us. So we're going to go ahead and do that as fast as we possibly can. Just a couple fast moons along the way. All right, we have another donation coming in. $25 from Chinisar. They say, good luck, have fun, dangers. Pog. Can we get some pogs in the chat? Thank you, Chinisar. Thank you for supporting diabetes prevention. All right, Moonrock is broken. We're going to go ahead and make our way through this little gap here, and this is the hint art, revealing a moon in the Sand Kingdom. We also got $11 from Remnant. Thank you so much, Remnant, for the donation. Post-game Wooded is also one of my favorite kingdoms to speedrun, I think. For the same reasons that Luncheon is, and Sand, I guess. They're big, sprawling kingdoms. It's just that Wooded sprawls upwards instead of outwards, which can be cool for speedrunning, but it can also be very scary for speedrunning. Because if you fall, you might end up in a place called the Deep Woods. The Deep Woods is not a place we want to go. We've already been there. We've already collected all the moons that we need from the Deep Woods. Ending up there again would be kind of a disaster because the only way to get out is through the vines. You can't warp out of the Deep Woods. So we kind of have to keep that in the back of our minds all the time when we're speedrunning this kingdom. Because at any moment we could just fall. Oh, well, all right. Kind of saw that coming. We could just fall into the Deep Woods and be forced to claw our way back. Oh. Excuse me? Hello? Video game. Yes, I would like to do a really cool jump. Could you please allow me to do that? Yes! There we go. Third time's the charm, right, chat? Okay. Grab that checkpoint for later. Now, the reason that we do that jump is for two reasons. One, because it's really fast to get to Captain Toad that way. And two, it also brings us up to the observation deck. And the original way to get up to the observation deck is by doing a really, really, really slow timer challenge. So we get to bypass that completely. And now, when you're a casual, I know that when I was a casual playing this game, Wooded Kingdom was really confusing to me because the kingdom itself is made up of a lot of like very vertical areas, and it can be kind of hard to distinguish where you are in it. As a result, like it kind of is on overlapping itself, and it folds on top of itself, and there's like areas that seem distant and apart from one another, but it just turns out that they're actually just like over top of one another. So traversing this kingdom can actually be kind of scary just on its own, but luckily I know where I'm going. We're just nabbing moons left and right, getting some fast ones along the way. Now, if you guys have ever watched a Super Mario Odyssey speedrun, you're probably very familiar with this sub-area. This sub-area doesn't change. It's on a cycle. It looks the same way as it always does, but it's always still quite satisfying to watch it go fast anyways. Basically, we just have to make sure that we're going fast enough to make the water cycle, because the water is rising and falling in this room. So as long as we don't get outpaced by that, then we're able to do that really fast like that. Now, I'm going to need some cooperation from the chat. This is a very important part of the speedrun. We're going to need some birds in the chat. If you guys have bird emotes of any kind, I'm going to need to see them right now. Because as soon as we've warped to this checkpoint, this bird is on a mission. He's on a speedy journey through the kingdom. And it is our job to outpace him, outwit him, outsmart him, and outspeed him to a particular point. We have to outspeed the burb. If we don't outspeed the burb, then he flies away, and we don't get a moon, and we cry a little bit on the inside. We have to do all this crazy platforming. We have to jump off the edge. We have to grab our speedy nut friend, traverse this entire maze, collecting moon shards along the way, and maybe some nuts as well. Yes, look at that. That is the face of a champion right there. Oh, I love long jumping out of there. For the express reason of the freeze frame. Alright. Do this timer challenge. Get Cappy back. And now that bird is like right there. So we need to long jump. And grab the moon out of the air just like that. The safer thing for me to do would have been to wait for the bird to fly next to the platform that I was standing on. But we're speedrunners. We're speedrunners. We can't wait for the bird. We gotta go, dude. We gotta go. Oh, nice. Good. Wonderful. Okay. And over and over. Yep. This is a really fun sub area. I always love bursting through this one. Very satisfying. There is a version of this sub area in the Dark Side Kingdom. We won't be going to the Dark Side Kingdom because the Dark Side Kingdom is really slow. But there's a version of this sub area in the the Dark Side Kingdom that removes Cappy from you. It takes away your ability to use Cappy, and if you've played this game casually, you probably remember it very well because you have to do a series of long jumps that are like very technically precise, especially for somebody who's not used to, you know, platforming in this game, perhaps. But that sub area is not so bad because you can just capture the bonsai bill and make your way back. And, you know, like I said, I know exactly where I'm going in this kingdom. so I know where everything is, I know where I'm going, I know where the moons are. I kind of have the layout mapped out in my brain. So it's easy for me to kind of distinguish where everything is in relation to each other, but this is a pretty condensed kingdom. Like, it really packs everything on top of one another, so it can be hard to navigate. But with that, we're making our way through the paintings again. And this painting spits us out in sand. Now, if we had gone to lake first in the painting chain earlier, we would not have been in wooded just now. We would have been in lake. And that's important because that means we would not have been in wooded at all by the time we got to sand again. Which is important for the paintings that we were talking about. And I'll point out the wooded moon when we get there. Alright. So, right away we get to break open that moon rock, which is great. That's going to reveal a lot of fast moons, including that little bunny rabbit there. And this little hide-and-seek cap guy. Now, this dog, you might be thinking, I've seen this dog in this game. Why would you get the dog? The dog is really slow, Dangers. And you're right, he is. By himself, anyways. If you were to get that dog's attention and then lead him over to the moon that he's going to reveal for us, it would be very slow, because he'd be following him. It'd be really slow, nothing would be happening. But as long as we keep him on camera, like I'm trying to do right now, he's going to go on his little way. We're going to go throughout Tostarena town, and we're going to capture some moons really fast. While he's doing his business, so that by the time that we've collected all the moons that we need, he's dug up his little spot. Makes it very fast if you can kind of fit some other things in the meantime. We're actually going to do that again in the next kingdom. You like my shirt? Oh, so thank you. I had to pick something with a collar today. I was just feeling it, you know? I was feeling fresh. I was feeling fresh. Shoutouts to Pipe Cat. All right. That should be perfect. Shoutouts to Fur_ for that one. Just a bit of Goomba platforming. Yes, that is an important detail to point out, in case you guys didn't notice. Because we're not stopping at the Odyssey, we're not dumping our moons in every time we leave. So they're literally just been accumulating on the screen for the last hour or so, and so much so that the game just decided to give up counting. We've collected so many that each moon that we've gathered now is just ... on the screen. There's a bird down there. You see that burp? He's a good lad. He's going to be very important to us in a moment. Hello? Alright, so we're going to capture this burp. Hit him in the face. Why is the date wrong? You can set your switch clock to anywhere between 2020 or like the year 2000 and the year 2060. So I do that. Just 'cause. Alright, Cappy. Oh, that's perfect. Shoutouts to Neo for things that you guys probably don't even understand. But yeah, capturing that bird and then just kind of lining all the moons up like that makes it so that you can capture them all within the time of the timer challenge, which makes it very fancy. Now, we're actually riding Jaxi. You guys remember Jaxi. At the very, very beginning of the speedrun, literally the first, like, 15 minutes of the speedrun, we paid that guy 30 coins. So that we could use him later. All right, this fish has been giving me trouble in my PB attempts, so hopefully he's nice to me this time. Yep, of course. Marathon luck works two ways. You can either, like, fail the really hard tricks forever, or you could get, like, the really easy stuff that ruins your usual PB attempts, like, on the first try, no problem. It's like... It's amazing how that works. Also, we just got first. I'm pretty sure that just beat the sheet. That was pretty hot. All right. Now, this tower is on a cycle. And if I manage to get the exact cycle, then I'll be able to do something pretty cool. So we're going to try. Yeah, let's go. That was actually really close to the edge. All right, we got another one of those creepy crawly boys. And then we're going to call our friend Jaxi again. He's a good lad. Sorry, chat. Trying to respond to a thing. But we're good now. All right. Now, this is another thing that I didn't really know, is that you can just kind of run him off the edge and continue all along with him. That was very interesting for me to learn. All right, so see that moon is blue, right? This is the moon that we got from the Wooded Kingdom hint art. So that's why it's so important that we go to Wooded before we go to Sand, which is why we have to pick Wooded first earlier on. Obviously, little things that make a huge difference. Okay. Now, this sub-area is always funny to me. When I first watched speedrunners do this sub-area, I just kind of, like, did a facepalm because you can just kind of jump on the top of the stage and not actually do any of it. And this also is kind of a bit of a cheese. We're going to line ourselves up in a way where we just, like, throw Cappy on the Scarecrow and then get inside the timer challenge before it spawns so that we can just, like... Well, we cheese it. To put it lightly, we cheese it. All right. We're going to come in here. Now, this obviously looks pretty scary. I'm just standing on top of the purple poison. I know where all the invisible platforms are. This Moai guy here, he actually reveals the location of the invisible platforms to us, but they're always the same, so I know where I'm standing. Okay. We're going to capture Glidon again. Glidon is great. Very good lad, Precious Bean. He's going to grab a moon out of the air like that, and then bring us on over to this platform. Now, Sand is unique. Sand is the only kingdom in the game, aside from the Dark Side hint arts, I don't think I really count the Dark Side hint arts, that has, like, 2 other kingdoms' hint arts hidden inside of it. That's how big it is. Like, this moon is cinnamon-colored because it's from Bowser's kingdom. And then, so this purple poison is instant death. We're actually going to use that to our advantage right now. The game spits you out at whatever checkpoint you were at last. So, by having the checkpoint set to the top of the tower and then dying immediately, we get to warp there basically for free. Well, I mean, not for free. We have to spend 10 coins, but it's a small price to pay. Dude, and it feels like we just got to Sand Kingdom, but we're almost already out of here. All right. But just like that, we're out of here. And into Metro. Metro is the other kind of huge kingdom in this game. And in its peace state, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to do here. And it's one of the coolest, like, platforming kingdoms in the run, in my opinion. So now that we're here, we're going to take a little quick jaunt through. Moonrock is very conveniently placed right next to the Odyssey. So right as we start this kingdom up. And now it's a matter of just kind of, like I said, connecting the dots, you know? All of the setup in the early game has led to this moment of just picking up the pieces. Now, this moon in particular is not the fastest moon. But it does give us a capture, and captures are kind of important. Captures are important because they give us a Toadette achievement if we get enough of them. So that moon might be like right on the borderline of what fast moons are all about, but because we get the capture out of it, it is kind of worth. All right. That was really sketchy and should not have worked, but I'll take it. So that trick right there is called the scooter clip. And you notice that I probably like shifted my position a little bit there. And that's because I actually had to physically turn my controller upside down to initiate kind of a hidden mechanic of the scooter. You can use motion controls on the scooter to give yourself a little bit more movement to one of the sides. And then by tapping the control stick at just the right time, I was able to clip Mario's big fat nose directly into the side of the cage and get that moon without actually having to activate the RC driver at all. Alright. Why is there so many moons in Metro? I mean, it is a big kingdom. It does make sense that there's a lot of moons here. Alright. Oh, ouch. Hello? There we go. How do I play the game with a quarter of the screen covered by moons? You get used to it pretty fast. Like, I don't even really recognize that they're there, I guess. All right. So my producer for the show, my producer for this charity event is telling me that there are some pretty cool incentives on the screen right now. And I think this is for if... Oh, heck. If we arrive at the grand total for these donations, if I'm not mistaken. So if we arrive at $500 total donated, then I guess I have to dab on stream for 10 seconds straight. I guess that's a thing. Is that gonna hit? No. So make sure you get those donations rolling. Exclamation mark donate if you're interested in supporting the diabetes prevention and aid. And making me do silly things on stream. All right. So yeah, we're just flying through. We're flying through the game. We're doing some speedy stuff. So here's the second example. Here's the second example of us waiting for the dog. So this dog obviously is really slow. He's just kind of minding his own business. We actually have to wait for him to like dig up some coins before he even does anything else. But because there are other moons here and like a bird flying by and other things going on, it makes all of these moons together faster. Which is what makes them worth. All right. Stringing things together. Stringing these moons together, going fast. All right, Urson TV just donated $10 to the stream. Thank you so much for supporting Urson. It says, keep up the good work at Dangers. Good luck. I'll do my best. Ow. Oh, I missed it. I miscalculated. Oh, well. All right, I'm going to try a bit of movement that I watched Neo do. Oh, that's... Let's try again. Nope. At least we got the second part anyways. Hello? Mario showing off his ballerina skills. Excellent. And now, can we get some more burbs in the chat? This is like the shortest bird cycle that exists. We really don't have to worry about missing this bird unless we like mess up our platforming, but we take a long jump off the top of City Hall to get this moon hanging in the air, and then landing on this gives us the perfect leverage to grab this bird. He's just chilling. Now this is a really cool area if I can nail it. This is a sub-area that is included in any percent now. Mainly due to how fast you can capture this guy. Cordy Nut just donated $10. Thank you so much for your support. Keep those donations rolling in. I think we've got some really, really silly incentives on the screen now. So, if you guys might want to make me do weird stuff. All right, so Metro is over. Metro's actually pretty fast. Not much to really say about it. But now we're in Lake. Lake is fun. Lake is fun because it's a really compact kingdom and it has a lot of moons. Kind of squished in a tiny little space. Dude, I love how excited Lakitu gets when you capture the fish, when you finally pull the fish in and he goes, "Ha-ha, yeah!" It's just like, find yourself somebody who gets as excited to see you as Lakitu gets when they see the fish. You know what I mean? That is a life goal right there. Okay. So now we busted open the moon rock. There's a lot of really fast moons in this kingdom. The moon rock helps a lot with that. So we're going to go into this little waterway, get this moon underneath. Capture another burb. Can we get some burbs in the chat? Oh boy. That's fine, I guess. Confess our love to Lady Goomba. Now this sub-area is very scary. Hopefully we can pull it off optimally. Basically, these poison waves are on a cycle, of course. And we're going to try and go as fast as we can to get the optimal cycle. Which we did just fine. Just like that, no problem. But yeah, just stringing pieces together. You know, we find our warps, we get our setup at our warps, and then we just like go moon to moon to moon. And that's kind of what makes Darker Side so fast, is like all the setup really leads up to the post game. And it's part of why it's so fun, is because all the moons are available to us and we just pick and choose the fastest ones. We pluck them all. Alright. A little dive into the water there. Now, some people are talking about SMS versus Super Mario Odyssey. I think they're both really good. It's hard to compare the two because the mechanics that they have are so different. I think, personally, Super Mario Odyssey is like my favorite 3D Mario game of all time, though. It's just like, it's years and years, because when you think about it, Super Mario 64 is, you know, it's a 15-year-old game now. Very nearly, anyways. And 3D platforming has been perfected for that long of a time, and it really comes to a head in Odyssey. Like, you really get to see Nintendo perfecting its craft, because nobody really does platforming games quite like Nintendo. You know, Nintendo is the king of that, for sure. Using the little fish. You can go up here. This lady's just really happy to see a fish. That's all she really wants in life. Is it 24 years old? Heck. 96, dude. I forget what year it is. It's 2020. It's actually literally almost 25 years old. That's kind of insane. I feel old now. I remember it coming out. I remember that game coming out. Oh, that was not the right play. I was not expecting him to home in on those fuzzies. We'll try that again. There we go. Easy. Now, that sub-area obviously looks a little bit different than you probably did when you did it casually. We're avoiding a lot of the mechanics of this room. Yeah, I'm a heckin' Mario boomer, to be honest. My first Mario game was Super Mario World, but my family did have an NES. All right, so Lake 2 is done. Lake 2 is pretty quick, little jaunt through the kingdoms. And arriving now at Luncheon. Now, Luncheon is interesting. Basically, the way that this painting chain is going to work, we have to end up in Mushroom at the end, right? Mushroom is our final destination. And because of that, we have one of two options. We can either complete all of Luncheon, make our way to Mushroom through the painting at the end of Luncheon, and then dump our moons into the Odyssey in Mushroom Kingdom, and then continue on to some of the other kingdoms that we have lined up to do still. Because when we get to the end of Luncheon, we're not going to have 500 moons. There's stuff that we need to do. We need to go to Cap, we need to go to Lost, we need to go to Moon again. So we can either go all the way through Luncheon and go to Mushroom through the painting, or we can split Luncheon in two, go through the Odyssey to, you know, say Cap Kingdom and Lost Kingdom now, come back later to Luncheon Kingdom and finish it off, and then go through the painting to Mushroom, and then let that be our final destination. So it just so happens that that second option is the faster option. So that's what we're going to do. Also, this is a really cool speedrunning sub-area. This one has been perfected like crazy because it's in the any % run. It's always satisfying to see. I kind of do it with my eyes closed, but obviously it looks very scary, kind of bouncing around. Looks like I'm getting a donation in from Aolf Anonymous. Thank you for $25 to the fund, my friend. Much appreciated. All right. I might be taking a risk not grabbing that checkpoint, but it should be okay. So, we have to get over to Captain Toad. And he's kind of across a platform all the way over there. So we're going to do a really tricky jump at the very last second, space our jump out in a way that we can cross this gap and get over to Captain Toad safely. Obviously, that's really tricky because we don't have Cappy. Cappy's on the timer challenge, so we had to wait a specific amount of time to get Cappy back. But now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the moment where I can actually take a moment and sip my coffee. The first break I've had in like an hour and a half. And we just get to sit and watch. Something very cathartic about that, right? And very satisfying. Perfect time for a dab. That is one of the donation incentives, if you guys so choose. So, we were lucky. 397 is exactly the right number that we need. So we can continue on to Cap Kingdom. Stress-free. Now, this kingdom and the one following this, very scary kingdoms. They're very small, and there's a lot of jumps that we do that go basically directly over the death plane that surrounds this kingdom. We have to be very careful. So what do, Dangers? Instead of being careful, you literally just throw your life away jumping over a giant crevice. Dangers, what are you doing? But it's fine. We were getting to the moon rock. So that is scary jump number 1. $397 moons, 397 coins. What the heck? I did not plan that, by the way. That is a complete accident. But we take those. All right. Now, because Cap is so small and compact, we are literally just, like, piling the moons together. And this kingdom is going to go by in the blink of an eye. All right. Now, funny little story about this game is that when I played this game casually when it came out in November of 2017, I did not read the action guide. I basically left myself blind to a lot of the things that Mario was capable of doing, including rolling. It wasn't until I watched speedruns in like April of 2018 that I realized rolling was a mechanic. The only thing that kind of gave me a hint was that this room exists. And I thought that this was just like a gimmick of the room. I was like, this room is funny. Mario's like Sonic the Hedgehog. Turns out that like if I let go of the shoulder button right now, Mario continues rolling. He's like stuck in this rolling animation. But I thought it was just like a quirk of this room. I didn't realize that it was something that you could actually do outside as well. Yeah, and now rolling is all I do. Now that I'm a speedrunner, rolling is all I do. All I do is roll. All right, here's another scary jump. Literally just like jumping off the side of the hat blind in a kind of a particular direction so that I can land on that moon without having to get it with a Paragoomba. But chat, I'm going to need your cooperation again. We're going to need as many burbs in the chat as possible. This bird in particular is probably the tightest bird cycle in the entire game. We have to make sure that we get these moons very, very, very quick. Also got to look at this hint art. Dabbing burbs, excited burbs, burbs saying, yep, this is very good. We need all of this. All right. Hardest part is over. As long as this, yep, as long as this ground pound works. And we get this moon fast. We basically made the cycle. Now, the bird is actually all the way out there, that little glowing speck. He's happy, he's fine. He's doing a good job being a burb. We're just gonna leave him alone. And you might be thinking, but you're gonna let him get away! It's okay. Don't worry about it, chat. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. I'm a trained athlete, all right? He might be making a run for it. But that's okay. He's got nothing on me. We actually were so fast that I was almost too early for him. Interesting. Might almost be going out of the way to get this now. But yeah, that's the bird cycle. And if we do it fast enough, then that happens. We get to line them up exactly like that. The cool thing about that bird cycle is if we went really fast, then we can kind of line him up with the next moon like we just did. If we're a little bit slow, it's not a big deal. We lose a couple seconds. Because we just grab him a little bit earlier. The collection sound is the notification on my phone. You know what? It's funny. I've thought about that before. People ask me all the time, don't you get sick of hearing the little ba-da-da-da-ba-da-ba? Bow! And I'm like, don't even really notice it, you know? It's just a part of the game. Can't wait until we're so early for that bird we have to get him in Lost 2. Dude, can you imagine? He just flies directly to another kingdom. Because we were too fast. He missed the bus. All right. So Princess Peach is here. She's chilling. We're going to bust open this moon rock. Intentional bonk? Kinda. By bonking into that counter, I was able to speak to him, immediately. It's probably faster to, jump dive onto the counter, but it's okay. Okay. So now Lost, in my opinion, is probably the scariest kingdom in the run, and it's great because it's right at the end. There's a lot of very scary platforming. This purple poison you guys recognize is instant death. I can't touch it. If I do, I lose. So we have to be very careful about where we're going here. Oh, don't do that to me. What the heck? I was not expecting to hop on him. That could have ended much worse. And the game intends for you to collect all of those shards with the Wiggler boy, but that's too slow, so... Mario's making a pretty goofy face. He looks like he's about to present some sort of silent film. All right. Yeah, the monkas are not over yet, chat, because this part is probably the scariest part, in my opinion. We don't want to fall off these propeller platforms. If I touch the poison, it'll factory reset my Switch. That's okay, because then I can have 1.0, and I can play on the fastest version of this game. Smile. Oh, gosh. Oh, what have I done? Oh, boy. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let me fix this. Oh, boy. Okay, I'm going to just wait a brief moment to set up the platforms for this little trick that I'm about to do. Basically beat the torpedo barely to that so that it blows up just in time. Make my way across the kingdom here. Walk off to certain doom. Just kidding, there's a platform here. Uncle Amiibo, get out of here. All right. We just got a donation of 1111 from Geyser that says, burp. Can we get some burps in the chat? All right. That's Lost. Lost is scary. I'm glad we're out of there. Glad we're out of there. Now, we do make a return visit to Moon Kingdom, and Moon Kingdom, honestly, is like the perfect textbook example of what Darker Side is all about, because we're actually only going to be collecting about 5 moons. Actually, not about. We're collecting 5 moons here. And all of our setup, all of our, like, doing stuff to prepare ourselves in other kingdoms and the rest of the run builds up to this moment. Because, for example, that taxi driver wouldn't be there if we had not spoken to him in all of the other kingdoms up to this point. That moon that I just ground pounded would not be there if we didn't look at a hint art in the Cap Kingdom. Captain Toad is Captain Toad. Bow up! He's fine. And also, on top of that, we're not done with the taxi driver. Him being in this kingdom is not his final destination. We're going to be running into him at least, well, not at least. We're going to run into him one more time. All right. So that's Moon. 5 moons, that's it. And we're out. Have I played Captain Toad Treasure Tracker? Yes, and it is very charming. Very, very charming. I had it on the Wii U, and I love that game so much. Whoa, that was a weird amount of lag. Do you see that? All right, we're going to perform a trick called the Salt Pile Triple to avoid any easier platforming. Now, this sub-area is particularly scary. Hopefully, I'm able to nail it. We're going to also avoid all of the intended mechanics of this sub-area and bonk into a wall. Okay, we'll try that again. This is why I adjust my camera. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Settle down, Mario. There we go. Second time's the charm. And we actually left that Podoboo alive right on the edge of the platform so that we were able to capture him again. Very risky, as you can tell. All right. Do a little capture warp there. That one's kind of a baby one because it's not as like dramatic as some of the other capture warps, but still good. I remember watching a runner named Kerbis54 do that for the first time back when Darker Side was still in its very, very baby stages. That was one of his strategies that I nipped from him. So shoutouts to Kerbis54. Can we get some screes in the chat if you've got them? All right, all right, all right. And this is another perfect example of just like stringing together moves. All right. Now, if you've got any dance emotes or maybe some jam emotes, now would be the perfect time to whip those out. Because we actually get to listen to this banger twice in this speedrun. Oops. There we go. Making our way through Luncheon Kingdom, my favorite evolution. We're going to do the slots again. Now, the slots are actually not RNG. Lucky for me, I can just, like, position Mario in a way... Oh, well, hold on. There we go. I can just position Mario in a way and do a spin throw to get all of the pieces immediately. Which is handy for me. All right. That was kind of sad. That's all right. We're making it through. We're doing the thing. And our second visit through Luncheon, or sorry, our third visit through Luncheon is just about over here. Just got to get a few more moons on our way over to the painting chain. Finish it up. Including this one, just kind of sitting here. Ow. So here's your reminder, chat. We're actually approaching the 3-hour mark of my speed run here. And we're going to be doing a 10-hour-long marathon in benefit for diabetes prevention and AIDS. All of your donations via the link at !donate will be supporting this charity. And if we get to certain incentives, you can make me do some pretty wacky things on stream. I think we're only about $100 away from making me dab for 10 minutes. No, not 10 minutes. Gosh, could you imagine? Just 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. Okay. So that's it. That's all for Luncheon. I sure hope so. And honestly, we're about to approach the Toadette achievement moons. So now would be basically the perfect time. Oh, heck. Now would be the perfect time to get up to 500 so that, that I can dab during the Toadette part. Bring a little liveliness to this final part of the run. All right. $3,000 for 10-minute dab? Sure. Sure, I can do that. All right. So it turns out that Mushroom has a few fast moons of its own. The only real thing that we did when we were here the first time is set ourselves up with these seeds that are now fully planted, fully grown. And just waiting here as moons to pick up. Definitely moons, not stars. Your eyes deceive you, chat. And we're just gonna zip around Mushroom Kingdom. Got a couple moons here. Capture this Goomba boy. Same thing? Yeah, exactly. Don't listen to science. Moons and stars are actually the same thing. It always made me kind of weirded out that, like, Toad's I'm scared and running away noise was just, hi! I don't think they thought that through. Oh, no. Goomba, excuse me. I did not ask for you to say goodbye to this world. I need you. Come back. Let's try again. Round 2. Now, the intended way for you to get this moon is for you to do a couple of things. First of all, you have to drain the moat. You have to unplug the moat of all of its pegs. That you can see one in the water there. And then the second thing for you to do is basically gather all of the Goombas that are in that area below, stack them all up so that they're high enough that when he's standing at the bottom of the moat, you can still be face-to-face with your Goomba lover, but we can also just jump across, so that's pretty cool. And now we get to talk to Toadette. Now, Toadette is my absolute favorite person in the entire world. This is the most engaging part of the entire speedrun. Like, if you were waiting for one particular moment in the speedrun to be like, when should I tune in? What is the most exciting thing? Are there any really cool tips or tricks that I can learn about Darker Side? Well, you've come to the right place. I hope you're okay with this for another 3.5 minutes. Maybe I'll just stare at Toadette and just stare right into her soul this entire time. Tell her, why don't you give me all these moons at once, please? That's all I ask. So the truth is, that this speedrun actually relies very heavily on this part of the run. Because we're just standing here talking to Toadette, and every time we talk to Toadette, she gives us a moon. It takes us about 7.5 seconds every single time we talk to her, and we just get a moon for free. Now, I am actually doing something here that you don't really maybe recognize except for that time because I messed it up really bad. But in this game, whenever you talk to an NPC or whenever you interact with certain things, certain cutscenes, it's possible that the camera will like pan to a specific place before that cutscene or that NPC interaction actually happens. It just so happens that if we go into first-person mode before we talk to that NPC, sometimes instead of panning there, the camera will just immediately snap there. And it just so happens that Toadette is one of those NPCs. So every time I talk to Toadette, I actually go into first-person mode first. Because if I don't, the camera kind of pans really slowly in like that, and it wastes about 0.2 seconds, not to mention the jump. That jump is probably about 5 as well. So every time I talk to Toadette, I have to go into first person to avoid the camera from panning slowly. Like that. And it saves about 0.2 seconds every time. But yeah, in this particular category, we're going to bother Toadette for 31 power moons, which means that we're going to be here for about 3.5 minutes. In all moons, you need to get all 61 of her power moons, and it takes about 7 minutes of just sitting here talking to Toadette to get them all. It's a bit of a journey, a bit of an adventure. If you combine that with the moons that we picked up in Luncheon and the moons that we already had from Mushroom earlier, what we have is essentially 63 on the counter is what we should have on this little counter of moons that we have collected sitting next to us. Rip the other D into dangers. Oh, I see. The other D into dangers. Rip the other D into dangers. Just donated $50. Come on, chat. Let's get a dab from this lad. Dude, I want a dab for 10 seconds. How many? We're only $44 away. You guys can make me do it. If you make me do it now, I won't have to do it in the middle of Darker Side. That would be embarrassing. Because then I might, like, die and go back to the beginning. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. All right, this is Toadette's last moon for us. That wasn't so bad, right, chat? We had a good time. But it's time to leave. And now we're finally arriving at the grand finale. This is what this entire journey has led up to, essentially, this final kingdom, the Darker Side Kingdom. $500 power moons, and we are good to go. There's like a hair in my eyeball. Can I not have a hair in my eyeball for Darker Side? It's really hard. Hardest kingdom in the entire game, and I have a hair in my eyeball. Okay, it's fine. World record for this category, in case you guys are wondering, now that we're at the end, we can kind of start talking about this kind of stuff. World record for this category is 3:08:25, set by me. Now, this run is for a marathon, so I really wanted to try some things over if I missed them and maybe didn't perform the greatest that I could have because I was explaining things a lot. So this run is not on pace for world record, as you can see. We're actually just passing 3:08:25 right now. Say goodbye to world record, chat. Give it a nice little wave. Now, this kingdom is especially interesting. It is supposed to be, like, the hardest gauntlet challenge that remains in this run, but I'm not going to lie, speedrunners kind of make a joke out of it, and I'm going to show you why. First of all, we can kind of slip out of this pseudo 2D section of that initial platforming puzzle and not have to worry about any of it at all. Then, this part, as long as you keep jumping and diving, it's pretty hard to take damage in this part. We're going to go ahead and just take this lava bubble and jump through these things. Pretty simple platforming, in my opinion. Nothing crazy. Now I'm going to show off a little bit of a trick that you guys can probably do at home. This particular section up ahead intends for you to use the onion boy to get to a particular place in this kingdom over to the side there. You can see that after we get up the stairs, it wants us to go to the right. I'm going to actually go up here instead. And I use this block to gain some height and go over the top. And it is actually technically faster to go the other way if you do a specific set of movement, but I just wanted to show off that you can just go over the top. Yeah, I see some people in the chat asking about Frog Skip. Frog Skip is a 1.0 original version of this game, exclusive trick. But it just so turns out that 1.3's loads, we were talking about this earlier, the loading times in 1.3 were overclocked, and it actually brings 1.3 without Frog Skip to be about the same speed as 1.0 with it. So both categories are viable, or both versions of the game, rather, are viable if you want to go for a world record in this category, but everybody plays on 1.3 because it just is the most available version, and you don't have to do the frog skip, and you don't have to do a lot of other really nasty tricks either. Now, this is a platforming puzzle here. If you put your hat on the scarecrow, it, like, reveals a path that you have to, like, wall jump and stuff, but if we get on top of the platform, we can actually just avoid doing that. Now, if you guys played this category casually, you'll probably recognize this upcoming part pretty well, because what lies ahead is probably the hardest part of Darker Side. You see, down there, there's like a series of fork flicks. You do those fork flicks over the lava to get into a pipe, and the pipe reveals an extra special area of Darker Side that is exceptionally difficult. There's like burbos on a platform, and the platform is moving, and you have to try and kill all the burbos, but then you're also initiating these lasers, and the lasers are killing you. And then after that, you have to do like a Pokio puzzle, and the Pokio puzzle is really hard. And after you do the Pokio puzzle, you enter a 2D section, and the 2D section has got Donkey Kong, and you got to beat up Donkey Kong, and it's really, really hard. And yeah, I guess we don't have to do that, so we're just going to go ahead and pretend that I never said anything. So, basically, you can keep your height with Glide-On by shaking the controller. And so because I was shaking the controller the entire time, I was actually able to clear the distance of the gap and just kind of fly over all of that stuff that I just talked about. And a warm geek I see donating $20 a day to live thanks to today's insulin prices. Thanks for the stream. It's true. And depending on where you live, sometimes even worse than that. So shoutouts to speedrun.com for putting on this showcase run. It's extremely important. The charities that we're helping today. You know, this is where Cappy gives us his little sob story about how wonderful this adventure has been. We actually are too fast for the whole thing, so that's going to be it. That's literally going to be all. Let's get a dangerous dab at the end. You know what? All right, okay. You know what? I understand. We were very, very close to the goal. If you guys get those $24 in while I'm just kind of explaining my stuff, then I will do that dab. I'll do that 10-second dab. It's only $24. You guys got this, all right? What a good speedrun, though. Shoutouts to, again, speedrun.com for allowing me to put on this show for you guys. It's been a really cool journey learning how to do this speedrun, and it's probably my favorite category in Odyssey, which is my favorite 3D platforming game of all time. It is the most approachable speed game out there. You know, the Switch is the newest Nintendo console, and this game in particular is not very hard to beat. So getting into speedrunning for this game is exceptionally easy for that reason, and also because this community is huge. This community is extremely helpful, extremely worthwhile to just be a part of, and you know, it's really, for lack of a better term, changed my life for the better. It's so cool just how many people get together to try and figure out how to do a video game fast for children. You know what I mean? It's great. So shout-outs to the community. A couple of very specific shout-outs for people who have gone the extra mile to make Darker Side specifically what this category is today. Shout-outs to Spike Vegeta for laying down the ground rules and laying down the original pathway to get to the Darker Side as fast as possible. Former world record holder. Shoutouts to Neo, who's actually in the chat posting Bible Thump right now. He has basically done a lot of the legwork for the modern age, you could say, of Darker Side. Darker Side is fantastic as a result of his work in routing and optimizations. He was a world record holder of this category and a really good friend of mine, so shoutouts to him as well. And yeah, shout outs to all the people who are giving this category a try now, because in my opinion, you get to see all of the game. You get to, experience this game for what it is rather than just the first 30 minutes of it. So, but yeah, this has been an absolutely incredible showcase. Thank you again, speedrun.com, for hosting me on it. And I hope to do some more stuff with it in the future. Now, I think the next speedrun that we've got you heading off to after this is Celeste, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the next run that we've got is Celeste. It's going to be Dave Stereo doing the True Ending speedrun, I believe. Dave Stereo is also a really good friend of mine, and if you thought my hair was good, his hair's even better. Now, from what I understand, we didn't make the $500 donation. However, instead of a 10-second dab, I'll just give you an instant dab, all right? I got you. Ready? Ready? Boom. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy Celeste, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh. Oh, we hit it. Oh, gosh. Wait. Wait. We hit it. Okay. Hold on. Hold the phone. Last second donations. You guys are nuts. Okay. We got to do it. And we got a timer? Wait, we got a timer. Hold on. We got to actually set the timer for this, okay? Ready? Ready? And dab. All right, and boom. All right. I'm a world record holder at dabbing, guys. Thank you so much again. Literally at the last second, getting that donation in. Thank you for meeting $500. All proceeds for this event going to the Diabetes Prevention and Aid Fund. So thank you guys so much for all of your contributions. We're just getting started. This is only hour 3 of 10. So you guys have got a lot more to see. Thank you so much. For having me on. I'll see you next time.